kind of want to go back like 10 or 12 years to the fitness, body weight, flexibility, handstand landscape. This is when I was moving from a focus on like bodybuilding, aesthetics, to more about what I could do with my body, learning sort of gymnastics skills, being inspired by people like Fitness FAQs, who feels like he's been making YouTube videos for literally forever, Tyson Edwards, Stronger Series, Ido Portal, all of that sort of stuff was a massive influence on me. And I spent hours scouring online trying to find the secrets to this sort of style of training. And I was reminded the other day of a particular post that goes into detail about what I think is one aspect of gymnastics that we don't incorporate into like normal bodyweight training. Yeah, I'm gonna start trying it, and this video is kind of detailing a little bit about why. And let me give you some context.
And that is because of this. Not you. That. For those of you that don't know, the other thing that I do in conjunction with this is renovate properties. And this is the 4th property now that I've done in 4 years. Basically, I started in COVID. I didn't understand how to balance it with normal training. It ended up with injuries and this kind of seesawing of trying to train and trying to do work, etc., etc. So I have no intention of doing it this time. And that's where the secret of gymnastic strength training comes in. It's from a blog post entitled Podkatchka. Podkatchka. So I'll link to the full blog post in the description down below. You can read it for yourself, check it out. It's a morning gymnastics circuit training workout. This is not your main training. This is the warm-up covering all of the basic strength elements. And I say basic in the context of gymnasts who do ridiculous stuff. It's like a bit of a step up from the concept of doing 100 push-ups or 100 chin-ups a day. It's a little bit more than that because we're not going super basic and super high rep. The principle, the greasing the groove, that's still the same. I'll leave you the exact workout that I'm going to be doing, but I think I may as well just get warmed up, start training, and I can kind of explain the details as we're going and why I've chosen to train like this, for the moment at least. This workout is just one example. You could mix this up in thousands of different ways, depending on your own goals and ability. This one is going to be focused on one arm chin up and handstand push up. Sticking to an assisted variation of this one arm chin up, mostly because I haven't done it for a while and it's quite joint intensive, and not getting injured is kind of the point of this routine. Essentially, we focus on shifting the weight over in that negative portion, overloading the movement and controlling it down. This is a great alternative to weighted chin-ups if perhaps you don't have as much equipment available. I'm just performing 1 rep per side, alternating back and forward and taking like 10 to 20 seconds between reps, performing them as clusters. For the handstand push-up, we have pike to handstand push-up. And again, this is pretty novel to me at the moment, so definitely some technical tweaking that needs to be done. The focus here is on using that pike to assist in with some momentum up to the top position, so it makes it easier, and then slow control the negative all the way back down to make, again, overloading the movement. This one also was performed as clusters, so taking that 10 to 20 seconds between reps. Moving on to the next exercises, Ido mentions the motor unit size principle, which is essentially a fancy way of saying how we generally want the principle of going from the most intense stuff to the least intense stuff. So we're sticking to the pattern, but using slightly lower intensity. And for the pulling movements, it is a gymnastics classic with the ice cream makers. This is much more straightforward on a bar or an object that doesn't move, but by focusing on pulling the elbows out and back in the top position, you can kind of counteract that momentum. This movement also nicely trains the subscapularis in the pulling position, which again is very important for one arm chin up. Dropping down a stage for the handstand push-up, we move to the L position. So this is a position in which the feet are level with the hips in the starting movement. It mimics very similarly the torso and angles to a normal handstand push-up, but allows us to get more reps, but still focus on being explosive and powerful when pressing up. Final exercise of this first part is uneven chin-ups. Now I've done this one to replace rope climbs that's in the program. Again, another classic gymnastics conditioning drill for pulling. Essentially it's kind of training this quite nice unilateral pulling movement where we're having to pull the arm across the body. I swapped hands positions halfway through to kind of keep things roughly even, but I have to say, I'm just a big fan of this one. For the final pushing drill, we've got dips. This is something that I've actually ignored for several years, but it's made a bit of a resurgence this year in my training. And again, I'm a big fan. I left it open at 10 to 20 reps, and the goal was just to finish kind of 1 to 2 shy of failure, but still maintaining pretty decent form throughout. To add a little bit of gymnastics flair to this one, I decided to do some like baby swings, which is a pretty basic move for parallel bars, keeping the body connected, hollow, and then kind of focusing on that pivot point being on the shoulders. Before we jump into part B of today's workout, I want to share with you today's sponsor, which is Vivobarefoot. I've been wearing Vivos now for about 7 years, and when it's not acceptable to be barefoot, then they are my shoe of choice. Right now, my favorites would be the Motus Strength for any sort of gym training, or the Motus Flex if you want the full foot movement. If you're interested in grabbing yourself a pair, you can save 20% off with my code. I'll leave it as a link in the description. Other than that, let's move on to part B. So less complexity, but the same principle here, kind of going through a drop set of those patterns. My focus really was just on getting the reps in. These inverted pull-ups were just on the program in Edo, so I thought I would give them a try. They're certainly a little bit unique. I like the change of pulling angle, definitely more trap heavy, and they were significantly more intense than normal pull-ups, so it kind of fit into that rep bracket. Handstand push-up on the wall, we're basically removing balance, focusing on just pushing. I actually think I need a little bit more rest during these exercises because I only managed to achieve 4 reps here. But the kind of progression in general, the style of the session is we want to achieve max reps in exercises, and then we want to work on reducing the rest between to, again, build up that conditioning. Back to chin-ups again. This time though, I'm using a neutral grip. I like to try and vary all grip angles during the session. I've actually found that generally with people, if they have elbow issues from doing chin-ups, it's often because they're overusing in one particular joint angle. Trying to incorporate supinated, pronated, and also neutral is a great way to manage that. Push, we go back to dips. As I said, they've been a big thing this year, but I also find that dips in general are quite nice for balancing out the shoulders. We do a lot of training overhead, a lot of handstand push-up work, a lot of the renovation work is done overhead, and dips can just kind of stretch out that bicep head in a pushing pattern, so I find it helps to counteract that. Plus the goal is to hit kind of 30 reps in one set, and I'm just looking to build more of that strength endurance in this pattern. Finishing up with 2 bodyweight basics, we've got the rows, this time doing a pronated grip, again talking about kind of changing those grips, but to be honest with you, this doesn't matter. Building up more volume in the mid-back, and then vice versa for the pushing pattern, we've got the humble push-up, again, just getting reps in, building strength endurance. These ones were just, embarrassingly hard towards the end. Was that 20 minutes at most? Man, that was kind of brutal. It was like one giant drop set followed by another giant drop set, maybe resting 60 seconds between, some a little bit less, some a little bit more. Not pushing towards failure, because obviously that then will have a knock-on effect down the chain, and this isn't that sort of workout. I did a little bit of flexibility work at the end, and this one was actually inspired by a conversation with Carl Bergerman. He mentioned the power of low intensity, long duration isometrics, especially in like lower body trainings. I think horse stance, long lunge position. It covers so many factors in both on a strength element, but more towards that flexibility side of things. And as he pointed out, they're too quick, easy, and simple to add in to not do them. So I'm training the horse squat to work on the length in the adductors, the external rotation of the hip, and the transfer over to middle split and pancake. You'll notice how here I'm not too hinged over at the torso. Instead, I'm thinking about pushing the knees forward and out. This is a crucial understanding for developing a good horse stance. I admit it's been several years since I've done these, but the basics aren't just for beginners. They are the bedrocks, the foundations of any advanced training. The long lunge is then to work primarily hip extension, but there is an element of hip flexion as well. To be honest with you, a lot of people could train just this one move, really dial it in, really push it, and they'll probably get 90% of the way towards their full front splits. In fact, I tested just a little bit of cold splits at the end after those 3 minutes on all of the different positions, and it was feeling pretty good. My main goal at the moment is getting this front split flat. That's kind of been since the beginning of the year, and I feel pretty confident it's on the right track. The thing that makes me laugh about this sort of stuff is like when you've been doing training for a long period of time, you go through the full circle of training. Initially you start out and you're like, I'm just gonna do something to work towards my goals, and then you spend a bit of time and you increase the complexity. You think that you need to find the perfect program, and then once you've been in it for like, I don't know, 5-10 years, you realize that actually you just need to be doing something. What that training looks like is going to morph and change depending on what's going on in your life, but if you can kind of match those two up, you're going to have long-term success. So I got another version of this routine, which is a straight arm version with a little bit more core in it. If you want to see that one, let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, thumbs up button if you enjoyed, subscribe button if you want to join, don't miss out any more future videos. Other than that, I'll catch you next one. Have a strong week. Peace.